welcome to the first episode of 2026. First off, we wish all of you a happy and healthy new year, and we thank you from the bottom of our hearts for your continuous support. On to business now, and we begin this week with the new retro game reviews and El Chef, a fun platform game for the Commodore 64 with a killer soundtrack. We also review the tough but wonderful Perseus, an action-adventure for the ZX Spectrum. We conclude this week's new retro games reviews with the rather hilarious but unique light gun game for the Amiga, House of the Dead Bunnies. In the hardware review, we will show you the BBC Micro MMC Interface, an external hardware mode that will allow you to load your entire BBC Micro library of games in an instant. Our DOS Vault reveals the amazing puzzle game Cara Grabs Antimatter, a brilliant little CGA game that will amaze you with its elaborate puzzles. In our DOS Retrospect, we bring back from the depths of the 90s the incredible and frantic 3D space shooter Terminal Velocity. Our retro adventures explore the creepy Boyd Manor in the amazing new point-and-click horror adventure Midnight Special that pays more than a tribute to the classic Clock Tower games. We also look back in time with our retrospect review of the crazy and funny comedy Discworld, Missing Presumed, based on Terry Pratchett's famous books. Finally, in our first history lesson of the year, we talk about the amazing console that was born from the hands of the biggest toys company in the West. This is the story of Mattel's Intellivision, the console that almost defeated Atari. So, we're off to a good start, and let's go enjoy this episode. Hello and welcome to the first review of the year. This is El Chef by Bonnet 2020, a game for Commodore 64. El Chef is a very fun and beautifully made platform game where you play as a French chef that you must collect flour for your recipes, followed by eggs, collect the key and find the exit. Avoid all the baddies that lurk in the cellar like spiders, rats, and other dangers. The game has wonderful cartoonish graphics, but what really distinguishes it, besides the very addictive and fun gameplay, is the amazing soundtrack. Really, you have to listen to this to believe it. It's so good you'll probably just stand still and listen to the soundtrack instead of playing. The game's controls are really simple, and you'll have no problems getting used to it. The graphics are wonderfully made and with great animation as well. The sound effects are on par with the great soundtrack. This is a very fun game. Now, the rankings are as follows. The graphics receive a 9.1. The controls a 9.2, the music and sound effects a 9.7, and the gameplay a 9.2, for a total of 9.3. This is an addictive, fun, and musically pleasing platform game for your Commodore 64 that will give you a lot of great hours. Try it out! Our next game this week is Perseus by Retro Bensoft for ZX Spectrum 128K. This is an action-adventure game with a lot of depth in its gameplay. It packs some amazing graphics with minimum to no color class for the Spectrum, very beautifully drawn with excellent animation and very, very well picked color palette. Now, the game has a very informative intro about the story of Perseus. It is on the hard side. The controls are a bit complicated at the beginning. It will take some time to get used to them, but once you do, it becomes significantly easier. The music and sound effects are very good as well. My only complaint, if I have one, is the fact that the game only packs one life, so it's a one-try thing. You do have a health bar, but I think if it had 3 or 4 lives or an option to choose, it would lower the difficulty bar significantly. Even so, this is a very well-made game. It is a great adventure that kind of reminds me of the classic game Myth. It's definitely worth trying. On to the rankings, and the graphics receive a 9.2. The controls, an 8. The music and sound effects, an 8.9. The gameplay, a 9. For a total of 8.7. Perseus is a wonderful action-adventure game for your ZX Spectrum that will give you a lot of hours of fun. It has a deep and interesting gameplay, and once you get used to the controls, you will discover a hidden gem. It's definitely recommended. Now, a third game of the week is kind of unique. This is the House of Dead Bunnies. Should I call it Christmas game? Well, yes, but not quite. This is a game that we don't see often in the Amiga or in any of the retro computers. This is an on-rails shooter for the Amiga, and it utilizes the mouse, or even if you have one, a light gun. And it must be, if not one of the few, it could even be the only light gun game I've ever seen on the Amiga. So you are playing as Santa, and obviously dead zombie bunnies have invaded his workshop. And, well, you must shoot him dead. It is a very fun game. The graphics are very, very well made. The bunnies are extremely funny, obviously, and not scary. It utilizes the classic Operation Wolf style gameplay, or a time cap, or I don't know. It's quite unique for what it is. The graphics are great. The only hindrance, the only problem I had was that the game obviously needs to load from the floppy all the time, and that creates a kind of stutter in the animation, but not in the moments you shoot, so it doesn't, cause any problem to the gameplay. This is a quite unique game. There's also a wonderful metal soundtrack and great sound effects. The controls obviously are simple. Well, the rankings are as follows. The graphics receive a 9. The controls a 9.4. The music and sound effects a 9.2. And the gameplay an 8.5. For a total of 9. And this is a quite unique game for the Amiga. It's not long, but it's definitely fun, and something that I don't believe we've seen before. It's, well, in the mood of the season, so give it a go. If nothing else, it's guaranteed to bring a smile to your face. Welcome to the first hardware review of this year. We have for you something different this time. We have a hardware mod for the Acon BBC Model B. Now this is a mostly British computer, and by that I mean that it's kind of hard to find it in other parts of Europe. I mean, I have mine valued very high. It's heavy to import, and especially after the Brexit events, the costs have gone up, and it is kind of hard to get bigger stuff from the UK, and it's really sad because it was the capital of informatics for a decade or so, and a lot of computers history still lie there. So if you got stuff from the UK, make sure you keep them close and in good shape. Now, this is the BBC Micro MMC Interface. It's built to make our life a lot easier. Now, I must say that the BBC Model B, if you have the correct cable, it also works with the tape interface that we introduced way back in our show. But this is a very fast and convenient method to have your entire collection in one place. Now, this BBC is modified also to have the latest DFS system, the Acon OS as well. It's with a mod made by a friend here, using this ROM chip. Of course, this is a convenient patent that's been custom made specially for me. You can always plug the ROM inside. Most of the times when you buy one of these, they will send you the ROM as well, although lately there's been newer versions that they don't need it, and they plug directly into the port from the back of the machine. This also plugs in there, but I have a cable here, an extension cable. Just to show you, it goes there, back there at the user port. So, also a little special mention, if you have a BBC Model B, I suggest you get one of these new USB powered power supplies. If you have even basic knowledge of using a screwdriver and opening up a machine carefully, it's very easy to install because the power supplies of these systems are prone to fail. Especially on the BBC, it's a big bulky one housed in this area that it's so easy to cause many problems, from stopping to work, from leakage, to even burning out your computer. So I definitely suggest you get one of these. They're cheap and they're very easy to install. So let's turn our system on and go see how the whole thing works, and we'll get back to sum it up later. Let's go. So let's boot up our BBC. Now, let's see the contents of our card. There you go. What we need here is menu. And this is as simple as that. Let's choose a game. Of course, left, right, goes down a page, up, down, moves to the menus, Android attack. Yes. And this is it. X, Z, right, left. This goes up, down. Okay. Huh, interesting game. Whoops. So, let's go. Escape and menu. Let's try another one. People don't realize it, but there's so many fun games for the BBC. It's a misunderstood system. Just mostly because a lot of people in the UK had this in the classroom and they have memories with it of education and teachers. I understand that, but still, it's a great computer. So, and a lot of newer games. Well, I did a little stupid thing here. Let's do it again. Up, down, left, right, and this. Yes. Blue player. Okay. Yes. Although I don't have a blue player. Press F0 to play. Alright, it's obviously a two players game, this one. It's interesting. Never heard of it. Anyway, we're not here to play, we're here to review the cartridge. I'm sorry, I got carried away. So, we can watch the content, like I say, with cat. There you go. Now, as you can see, the process has loaded the internals of the file, the contents of the file, onto the memory as drive 0. So I would probably have to, let's see. No, come on. There. Easy does it. And we're back to the main one. Now, a few more things. Let's see the help. You can see here, up and down page. Pressing tab followed by a character key highlights the first game beginning with that character. This is very easy. Pressing, oh my memory. All right, tab. So, I'll press tab and I, and we go straight to I. And B, ballistics. And there we go. It's very easy to use. It's definitely gonna make your life so much easier. So much easier. ZX. All right. Well, I obviously don't have the key right, so anyway, let's go back to sum it up. Now, as you can see, using the MMC card interface is very easy and it makes life really easy for you. The card has specific sizes. You cannot use cards of, 64, 512 gigabytes. This is a small one, it's a 128 megabyte card. Now, there is a utility by which you form a file like a hard disk file, like we find in emulators such as the WinUAE of the Amiga. It's called Beeb MMB. Now, you will find these utilities on the internet, online. They're free to use, and you can find ready files filled with games and software. There is especially a community at star.org.uk of wonderful people willing to help everyone who becomes a member to the community. I suggest you check out that site. It's a treasure of resources. You just copy that file in here, and if the installation is right, you're good to go. This is a wonderful interface for a very interesting retro computer that is part of the British history and the computer's history. We've mentioned it many times in our channel. If you have one, it is a must in order to make your life a lot easier and enjoy your BBC computer. So, as expected, this is definitely a thumbs up from us. Hello and welcome to the first DOSVolt review of 2026. This is Cara Grabs Antimatter by Voxel, a very smart, fast and amazing all-around puzzle game presented in glorious CGA graphics. Now the game combines various ideas from games like Sokoban, even I would say a little hint of Deflector, and Boulder Dash. Your goal is to guide Cara as she gathers antimatter for her spaceship in order to escape this planet. You get to move in one direction continuously that you choose until Cara finds a wall, an object that will stop her. Of course, throughout the game, there are various traps that will harm Cara, and there are also some special objects that will either assist you or make your life harder, such as these bouncing walls. There are spikes, there are energy walls, and you have to calculate your moves very carefully if you want to solve the puzzle in its stage and escape to the next stage unharmed. Now the CGA graphics of the game are simply amazing for what they are. The animation is very good, the character is very well drawn, they are very clear graphics. Of course the CGA palette is the usual poor palette, but if we consider that this is CGA, it makes very good use of the available colors. There is no music to speak of, but the sound effects are simple but functional. The controls are extremely simple. Now the rankings are as follows. Graphics 8. The controls take a 9. The music and sound effects a 7. And the gameplay a 9.1. For a total of 8.3. This is a simple but fun and quick puzzle game that will give you lots of hours of fun, and try to make a speedrun if you can. You'll enjoy it. Now in our Retrospect review this week we have Terminal Velocity, an amazing shooter video game by Terminal Reality and published by 3D Realms. This game is a 1995 release, and it was an amazing combat flight simulator, space flight simulator, where you play as a pilot of Earth after all the other members, seemingly, of an alliance of spacefaring alien races had turned suddenly against Earth and instigated a war. You must fight through their armies and bases and find the cause for this betrayal. The game is a 3D shooter, and it first got published as a shareware game, meaning an episodic form by which you get the first episode for free and the rest you must pay for. Now, the game before its mission gives you your goals by a small video briefing, and finally your exit point. The controls of the game utilizes a mouse, a keyboard, or even a gamepad, which is one of the earliest games to utilize a gamepad on PC. The game is very simple in its concept, but it's pretty addictive. You must find and destroy its target whilst defending yourself and taking down enemy starcrafts, tanks, or missile installations. The game is in full 3D form, and it's considered a spiritual successor to the Descent in many ways. It is a very fun and addictive game, and the early 3D graphics don't look so bad nowadays. They still hold up pretty good. The action is continuous and frantic, and quite frankly, it plays much better than many modern games. The controls take a little of getting used to because of the completely free movement of 360 degrees, but after a while they become a second nature. I do suggest you play the game with a gamepad, as the mouse is a bit overly sensitive, unless keyboard is your poison. Now, the music is extremely good. It not only creates an intense atmosphere, but it's a good soundtrack on its own as well. The sound effects are equally good. This is a classic addictive game that will keep you company even now for a long time. Now on to the rankings, and the graphics receive a 9.1. The controls an 8.7. The music and sound effects a 9.4. And the gameplay an 8.9. For a total of 9. This is an amazing and classic game, quite simple in the gameplay, but equally addictive. It's simply one of the best games of that era, and I definitely suggest you give it a go. If you haven't played it before, you're gonna discover a hidden gem. And if you did, then you already know what I'm talking about. Have fun! We begin our Retro Adventures reviews with an amazing new game, Midnight Special. Now, bear in mind that this game by Scared Stupid Incorporated is not complete yet. It's still in development, and this is an alpha version. But believe me when I tell you that it's worth the wait. This is the story of Sarah, living in Boyd Manor in the late 80s. Now, something happens and the power cuts out, and suddenly the whole mansion starts becoming a twisted and dark place. I won't reveal any more of the story as to not ruin the mystery for you, but suffice to say, this is a wonderful and thrilling horror adventure game. The graphics and the animation is quite amazing, and they contribute to the atmosphere immensely. Even though they are the classic pixel art style, they are very detailed, and the animation especially is very well made. There is a good music that also adds to the atmosphere, and the controls are fairly simple. I say fairly because initially it will take you some time to realize how the left and right click works, but after 5 minutes or so, it becomes a second nature. Now, the game packs a very interesting story as far as I've played. Like I said, this is still an alpha version, but it's gonna get a grip on you with its wonderful story and all the mystery that surrounds it, that I'm sure that, like me, you're gonna impatiently start waiting for the complete game. Now, I find the puzzles of the game fairly logic, meaning that I did not fall into something irrational that needed too complex or too weird thinking. I do believe that this is one of the better horror games that came out lately, and really I believe that the rest of the game will be equally good when it comes out in the full version. On to the rankings now, and the graphics receive a 9.2. The puzzles of the game receive an 8.9. The music and sound effects, a 9. The controls and the gameplay, an 8.9 as well, for a total of a 9. This is a well-made, atmospheric horror adventure game that will keep you company whilst you're waiting for the full version to come out. Believe me when I tell you, it's gonna be worth it. Do you like a good comedy? Do you like a good point-and-click adventure game? Well, combine these two and you get today's Retrospect adventure game, Discworld 2 Missing Presumed. This is an amazing adventure game from 1996 by Psygnosis, and it's based on Terry Pratchett's Discworld, a series of books that were not only witty and smart, but also hilarious. Now, the game also utilizes the amazing voice talent of none other than Monty Python's Eric Idle in all his hilarious glory. The graphics of the game are amazingly animated and cartoonish. Now, the plot is an equally crazy one as usually, just like in the first game. But suffice to say that you need to take Death's place while you try to convince him, after you find him, to get back to his work that he's obviously fed up with. Now, the controls of the game are very simple, although it did receive some criticism back in the day, mostly because you need to be always on the look for objects that you can interact with. The puzzles of the game are a bit crazy, but less crazy than the first parts, and they do follow a certain logic, especially if you've read the books. This is a great improvement over the first part. Even though the artistic design remains the same, the puzzles and the gameplay has been improved greatly. The music, the speeds and sound effects is also of a very high level. This is a very funny game that will give you a lot of laughs and fun times. Now on to our rankings, and the graphics receive a 9.4. The puzzles of the game receive an 8.4. The music and sound effects a 9.6. And the gameplay and controls receive an 8. For a total of 8.8. Discworld 2 Missing Presumed is a hilarious and classic adventure game, and if you are a fan of Terry Pratchett's series of books Discworld, this will put more than a smile in your face. It will have you on your knees laughing with its wacky humor, its crazy puzzles, and its amazing world. If you haven't played it before, I can't recommend it enough, and if you did, well, now's a good time to revisit it.
Great gods, you two again?
Yo, Chucky, Chucky, Chuck.
I know. What does a company like Mattel, creators of dolls like Barbie and action figures for boys, do here? Well, let me tell you the story of how the biggest toy company in the West once took on the biggest video game company in the world and almost won. This is the story of Mattel's Intellivision. Mattel had already tried their hands in the video game market by 1976, and rightly so, as the video games were initially considered just a new form of electronic toys. It had brought out to the market one of the first handheld consoles like Mattel Football, and it was quite a hit. So as early as 1977, this man, David Chandler, an electrical engineer with a career in aerospace, brought his vision for a video game console to the then head of Mattel Preliminary Design Department, Richard Chang. Chang was already charged with the development of video game console prototypes by Michael Cage, then marketing manager of Mattel. Yes, that Michael Cage, the same man who went on to lead the launch of the Sega Genesis console almost a decade later. The initial designs of the console included a National Semiconductor chipset paired with an Intel 8080 CPU, but that came out a bit expensive. The alternative was a CPU from General Instruments that needed still some development towards graphics abilities, but not only came as a cheaper choice, but it was also a 16-bit processor. Even so, Chandler initially went with the National Semiconductor choice, but significant delays from the National's side forced his hand towards choosing the General Instrument GI CP1610 processor in the end, a choice he would not regret. With the designs being finalized and the market now more mature thanks to Atari's leadership, the new console was ready to hit the world. And so, in January of 1979, Intellivision was born. The name was an abbreviation of the world's intelligent television, and it was marketed as such often to point out the advancement in technology it contained when compared to the competition. The console initially came out and was marketed alongside the keyboard component, a peripheral that would turn, eventually, the console into a full-fledged computer system once it was ready for production. Mattel, a company that was no stranger to harsh competition, went straight for the throat of Atari. A huge and very aggressive campaign launched that pointed out the 16-bit power of Intellivision, the advanced and more arcade-like graphics of the system, along with a much better sound. The keyboard component was eventually phased out of promotion as various problems with its development led not only Mattel to abandon the company's faith in the peripheral, but also to fire its creators. The peripheral was so notoriously late, in fact, that even the Federal Trade Commission came into play with an investigation of possible fraud. Of course, Mattel proved that it was not a fraud, but rather an overestimation of the ability to deliver such a product, and the case closed with compensation to those who prepaid or bought some of the initial keyboard components when they finally came out. After that, the entire keyboard component project was abandoned and the rest of the stock was discarded. Beyond these problems though, the Intellivision console, or master component as was initially named, went from strength to strength. By mid-1980, the console was already in every store in the US, and there was even a Japan launch under the Bandai brand. Intellivision also packed some firsts in the history of video game consoles. Besides being the world's first 16-bit console, Mattel introduced in 1982 the IntelliVoice, an add-on that brought a speech synthesizer to the console, making compatible games able to play male or female digitized speech. Mattel also managed to secure some significant third-party software support, especially by Activision, that was formed from disgruntled Atari game developers, and Parker Brothers that looked to expand its revenue. But the most impressive first by far was the Play Cable, an actual online service for Intellivision that allowed owners of the peripheral, and of a subscription of course, to download and play up to 20 games monthly. This is widely considered the first complete video game online service in history, but it was discontinued in early 1984 as the costs of the subscription for the end user, the cost of the equipment required by the providers, along with the limited storage of the peripheral, led the Play Cable to failure. Nonetheless, Intellivision seemed to be on its way to achieve its goal: the utter and complete defeat of Atari and the #1 position in video game console sales. By 1983, the console was nearing 3 million units in sales, and the future was looking bright. But the clouds were gathering for some time now. The console already had hard competition by another far more advanced opponent, ColecoVision, a console that not only had way more advanced graphics and sound than both the Atari VCS and the Intellivision, but came with a peripheral that allowed it to play cartridges from both the competing consoles. And then, catastrophe struck. Atari, having flooded the market with shovelware, indifferent to the consequences and believing that it had total control of the customer's needs, led the video game console into a crash. Within months, video game came to become from the trendy cool thing that filled coffers with dollars into a forbidden word that had already cost billions of dollars in damages and hundreds of thousands of jobs lost. Coleco had already abandoned the ship, and Atari was on its way to be sold to a new owner, the computers and consoles divisions at least. Mattel tried to keep up the fight. It phased out the Play Cable and the keyboard component entirely, and packed the IntelliVoice with every console, no longer selling it separately. In spring of 1983, it also introduced Intellivision 2, a compact, cheap version of the console with far less manufacturing costs, cheaper prices to the market, and a new modern design. It also introduced the System Changer, a peripheral similar to ColecoVision's Expansion Module 1 that allowed the Intellivision to play the Atari 2600's cartridges and even connect the Atari's controllers. All this though was too little too late. Even though an Intellivision 3 was already in the drawing board, the impact of the video games market crash of 1983 was too strong for Mattel to absorb, and the risk posed to the other company divisions by the financial loss presented from this situation was significant. In the end, Mattel decided that it was not worth the risk and looked to get rid of the console. Interestingly enough, it was a former Mattel vice president of marketing that bought the rights, the stock, and the games of the Intellivision to breathe a second life to it, believing firmly that demand for video games will increase again, and that the video game crash of '83 was simply a transformational point and not the end. Thus, the INTV Corporation was born, and in truth, it managed to sell all stock of the games available by the end of 1984. They even released the INTV System 3, another redesign of the Intellivision, albeit with no internal changes. Eventually, and when Nintendo took the world by storm, INTV started producing games for the NES after a deal with Nintendo. A deal that demanded that INTV must halt all production and future designs of the Intellivision in any form, a contract term by Nintendo in order to eliminate the last ghost of the old era. The Intellivision was not only the world's first 16-bit console, but also the first one to provide online games download service, the first digitized speech peripheral, but most importantly, the first to take on the undefeatable Atari at the time and managed to outlive it. Its legacy lives on to this day, proving that with a good idea and a solid dream, even a toy company can conquer the world of video games.